Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to another Pal of You Market Research video. Today, we are going to be discussing survivorship bias because a lot of you are obviously participating in the markets. You're participating in researching as independent market participants in either crypto or stocks or something else, most likely. Or maybe you're even researching areas to apply yourself in an entrepreneurial venture, and that requires a tremendous amount of market research as well. But especially in this modern world, we need to be extremely vigilant and aware of the biases we are finding ourselves using when we are analyzing the data sets that are available to us. So in this video, I'm going to be describing to you the survivorship bias. And at the end of the video, I'm going to recontextualize it to you as specifically a crypto market participant. Okay, how survivorship bias is very likely corrupting your perception of some of the risks in crypto and some of the return, the likely return um, rates of return that you might experience. So, what is a survivorship bias? So, a survivorship bias is a form of a selection bias. And a selection bias occurs when a data set fails to represent the targeted data you're looking to study because the data set fails to accurately represent the population or sample size you are analyzing. So what that really means is you're looking at a set of data where conclusions can't be drawn because it does not sufficiently represent the sample that you are looking to represent. So if I'm going to a town, if I'm going to a city, right? This is a selection bias example. And I need to understand what the average, median income is of that town, right? That's my goal. I'm sent out there. What is what is the median income levels in this zip code? And if I only go to the wealthiest neighborhood and I send out, I hand out pamphlets, right? Like surveys for people to fill out, and I just go to like the wealthiest 50 homes in the area, then I'm going to have a selection bias, right? I didn't go to where or the reverse example, I could go to the affordable housing units, right? And only survey them, and I would still have a corrupted sample. This is a selection bias. So, but in this video, obviously, we're going to be talking about a survivorship bias, which is a little bit different. And a survivorship bias ignores unsuccessful outcomes of a selection process. So there's this very famous example by this beautiful Jewish boy who looked like a boy his whole life, I hear. That's part of his legend. He also died in the Indian mountains at only 40 years old. His name's Abraham Wald or something like that. Beautiful Sicilian almost looking Jewish man, even though I think he's Hungarian. But what is survivorship bias? And we can use this amazing example from World War II to represent this idea. And maybe you've heard of this before. So, you and I are on an airfield in World War II. It's our job to make sure these planes are up and running. One plane flies into the airfield, lands, and it has all these bullet holes in it, right? This is the plane that we're looking at. And we drew this out to look at how we're going to fix this plane and what areas of this plane are we going to reinforce, right? So when this clever little Jewish man was looking at this plane, he was like, well, you may think that you need to be fixing the areas in red, right? Because that's what when you look at something like this, you're probably gonna be like, oh, well, because the bullet holes are here, we should fix where the bullet holes are. But you'd be wrong. The areas that need reinforcement are the areas that were not shot. That is actually where the risks are revealed, right? If because right, because you are dealing with a survived aircraft. The aircraft surviving to getting to you. So you almost have to look at all the places that it did not get shot, because all the planes that don't get back to the airfield were likely shot in areas that this plane was not shot, right? This is the one of the interesting paradoxical challenges of data analysis and data collection. And it applies extremely, extremely importantly to market research. So another way of thinking about this is like if you're driving through Ireland with your family or something as a kid and you see a big castle, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh, that's amazing. This guy just had this castle and all this land around it, right? What you don't get to see is like all of the, the serfs, right? All the slave kind of wooden structures or huts that were all trickled around these, castle like environments back then, right? Because they're made of materials that don't last, right? So you have a incorrect perception of what that region would have looked like because we don't have the proof. We don't have survivors. So how do you apply this thinking? How do you apply the awareness of survivorship bias? And how do we use this more practically when you are researching your coins or your stocks or whatever the heck you're looking into, right? So, big one is you are likely overestimating your returns and underestimating your risk because you're only researching successful coins. Because all the unsuccessful ones are either delisted, their Twitter accounts have been taken down, and maybe it's not even possible to research a lot of the failed crypto projects. So your perceived average returns are going to be inflated. You're ignoring failed projects, so you're overlooking inherent risks in crypto investments. So what we're essentially describing here is you have a skewed historical performance because you are as a participant, you are definitely, when you're thinking about the crypto market as a whole, you're excluding a huge number of projects that you don't even know how many there are, right? But it's definitely the majority of projects are inactive and delisted. So you have a distorted market performance analysis. And then another thing that will happen is that you have an overemphasis on innovation. You may overvalue a narrative associated with innovation, but when it comes to actually studying market participants who claim to be innovating in the space, you may find that that's actually a higher risk, higher reward opportunity within that specific niche because innovative projects are innovative. They have higher risk potential. But you may only be seeing innovative projects that won out, right? Because innovative projects that win are obviously going to disproportionately win, right? Higher risk, higher return. Now, lastly, you may be misinterpreting market dynamics. And this can be really difficult when it comes to, like, say, measuring market saturation within the AI niche of crypto right now. I would say that that's very, very difficult to measure because there's so many projects and there's so many scam projects and there's so many legit projects all just flooding the scene all at once. So the average participation, like the average rate of return in someone participating in an AI project might actually be really, really low compared to more of a niche, a less saturated niche, right? That doesn't have nearly as much competition in it and only has a certain competence of type of individuals who are gravitated to that sports space anyway. So you could argue that like real world assets, that niche of people participating in that space may outperform AI, not necessarily but like in terms of average returns, not necessarily in terms of like the best performers, right? Averages might be pulled down just because there's probably 100 scam meme AI coins for every one super legit like fetch AI render token, right? Okay. That is today's video, guys. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you found this helpful. And yeah, we'll continue these obviously. And I like to make these bias videos that kind of break down and help you become more aware of analyzing the data that you are looking at because the second you're getting a little too comfortable, the second you're getting a little bit too confident is the second you start to lose your money. So I want to kind of almost contribute to that paranoia for now and to just make it more cunning and useful. All right. Because a lot of these things, you want to stay a little paranoid. You want to stay a little anxious about your money because the second when especially when you're participating in volatile markets like this in this season, the second you get too confident is typically when I see guys start to, for, start to mess up. So let's not mess up. Let's stay vigilant and let's stay winning. Let's stay winning. See you guys.